The most famous account of King David happens in the Valley of Elah, between the Judean hills and Philistine country, where he famously defeated Goliath. This event finds a striking correlation with Amarna Letters number 294, from Gezer, which names a certain Peya, the son of Golatu. The name and location parallels the famous Goliath and suggests a connection to the biblical narrative. Building on this connection, this study further investigates the possibility of David's early career being linked to a figure in the Amarna Letters, known as Tagi of Gintikirmil, offering a richer historical context for the events described in the book of Samuel. The time frame for this event corresponds to the period after David's rise to prominence and renown, becoming one of King Saul's most celebrated military generals. His achievements earned him the honor of marrying the king's daughter, Mikhal. However, not long after, David fell out of favor with Saul, who grew increasingly jealous of his victories and growing popularity. This is a major theme of David's story as described in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 19, verse 7 to 8, as it reads.
Once more war broke out, and David went out and fought the Philistines. He struck them with such force that they fled before him. But an evil spirit from the Lord came on Saul as he was sitting in his house with his spear in his hand.
According to the biblical account, Saul's jealousy led to David's persecution. The passage in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 9 to 10, builds from the previous one as it reads.
While David was playing the lyre, Saul tried to pin him to the wall with his spear, but David eluded him as Saul drove the spear into the wall. That night, David made good his escape.
In this context, David's first independent act as a leader left potential archaeological evidence in the Amarna archive. The biblical narrative in 1 Samuel chapter 23, verses 5 to 6, describes David's rescue of the city of Keilah during this period of persecution.
Once again, David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered him, "Go down to Keilah, for I am going to give the Philistines into your hand." So David and his men went to Keilah, fought the Philistines, and carried off their livestock.
King David's victory at Keilah may be described in several Amarna letters, particularly letter number 287. This letter, written by Abdi-Heba, the ruler of Jerusalem, details the advances of two other rulers against cities under his authority. One of these rulers is Tagi of Gintikirmil, who is the main focus of this study, while the other, no less important, is named Ili-Milku. Abdi-Heba's letter states,
Consider the entire affair. Ili-Milku and Tagi brought troops into the town of Keilah against me. Consider the actions they did against your servant. Arrows they brought into Keilah.
I argue that the names Ili-Milku and Tagi correspond respectively to the biblical figures Ahimelech and David from the biblical account. The name Tagi originates in the Hurrian language. It could be either a shortened form of Tagi-Haya, meaning beautiful, or on a stronger linguistic connection it could emerge from the root Tadi, meaning beloved. The use of this root can be exemplified in the name of the Hittite princess and later Egyptian queen, Abdi-Heba, which translates to beloved of Heba. Notably, the Hebrew name David also means beloved, directly aligning with the Hurrian root Tadi. This study, therefore, concludes that the names David and Tagi are both phonetically and etymologically compatible. Additionally, in Amarna Letter number 287, Abdi-Heba, the ruler of Jerusalem, continues to report to Pharaoh about the actions of these two regional leaders. He mentions Ili-Milku, the ruler of Gezer, whose role this study will keep exploring in relation to the biblical character Ahimelech. However, instead of naming his ally Tagi directly, the ruler of Jerusalem refers to him as the son of Labaya. This designation resonates with the biblical narrative of King David's early career under King Saul. The letter underscores their actions in misappropriating lands under Jerusalem's jurisdiction, to grant them to the Habaru, highlighting the territorial disputes of the period as it continues.
Consider the deed. This is the deed of Ili-Milku and the deed of the sons of Labaya, who have given the land of the king to the Habaru.
Through the identification of Amarna vassal, Labaya, with biblical King Saul, this connection is particularly compelling, as David did indeed become King Saul's son-in-law through his marriage to Mikhal. Moreover, a more compelling argument comes from the broader cultural practice during the Amarna Letter of attributing honorific familial titles to individuals outside one's immediate family. The rulers of the 5 major powers, namely Babylon, Hatti, Mitanni, Elashia, and Egypt, addressed each other as brothers, reflecting mutual recognition of equal status and legitimacy. Conversely, vassal rulers referred to their sovereigns as father, signifying a hierarchical relationship where the father provided protection and a network of allied rulers, and the son offered loyalty, obedience, and military support when needed. The relationship between David and Ahimelech, the priest of Nob, is pivotal in David's journey. During his flight from King Saul, David sought refuge in Nob, where Ahimelech provided him with consecrated bread and the sword of Goliath. This assistance sustained David during a critical period. However, Ahimelech's support for David led to tragic consequences. King Saul, upon learning of this aid, ordered the massacre of Ahimelech and the other priests of Nob. In the following chapter, this study will explore the identification of Ili-Milku, a prominent vassal ruler of Gezer mentioned in the Amarna Letters, with the biblical Ahimelech. This connection suggests a figure who embodies both military duty and priestly attributes similar to his predecessor Samuel, as well as other figures such as the sons of Eli, Deborah, Joshua, and Melchizedek. By examining these primary sources, the next chapter will also investigate the intriguing possibility that the Amarna Letters preserve the historicity of the massacre of the priests at Nob, one of the most dramatic episodes in the Bible.